Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game, or sometimes role-playing adjacent games. This week I'm taking a look at a sort of point-and-click adventure game. Developed and published by Nuts and Bolts Electronics, Templum de Malum was released back in June of 2019. Inspired by such titles as the NES-era Shadowgate, Templum de Malum is a point-and-click adventure that revolves around puzzle solving and exploration. As such, it's not really an RPG, however, I thought that it might appeal to those who enjoy the puzzle, lore, and exploration elements of role-playing games, or who have nostalgia for the old MacAdventure games. In terms of plot, you play Philip, a British aristocrat during the mid-1770s who has decided to explore foreign lands rather than join his father in dealing with the troublesome colonies. Soon shipwrecked on an island near the Middle East, he and his family servant Brimley are left to explore a giant tower of ancient design that just might be the Tower of Babel. Gameplay is pretty much just an advanced version of the Shadowgate/Deja Vu style play from the NES and MacAdventure area. There is a representation of the area that you're looking at in the largest window of the screen. Below is the text scroll where messages and results are displayed. On the right-hand side, you have your local map that shows known exits. To the right of that, there are two hands, one for each of your characters, which is where you can carry/track your torches. Under the torch display is your inventory. You have 4 pages of inventory where you can review all of the various items that you've picked up. The area to the left of the inventory and right below the map area is your command area. This is where you select different commands to interact with the world. Walk moves you to an area, either an exit or sometimes a sub-area within a particular room. Look gives you a description of whatever you click on, whether it be the main screen or your inventory. Open allows you to open objects, again either on the main screen or in the inventory. Take lets you pick up items from the world. Use lets you use items in the world or, again, in your inventory, and is generally followed by a choice to use the object on something else. You can use this command to use keys on locks or even to combine parts of one item into another. Finally, the talk command lets you talk to entities that you meet within the game. Under the command list are some alternate targeting and option selections. Self allows you to target yourself with any of the above commands, while Brimley lets you target your companion Brimley. You may also save and quit the game here. Basic gameplay involves exploring from screen to screen, inspecting interesting items, and picking up objects to solve puzzles. While mostly mouse-driven, you can map keyboard controls to streamline play. If you've ever played any of the old MacVenture games, it is very much a modern version of that. There are some quality of life improvements beyond the streamlined controls, namely a diary that the character Brimley keeps of your journey, which brings the modern convenience of a quest log into the game, as well as the ability to talk to Brimley in certain areas. This can provide further insight into particular rooms or puzzles, effectively a sort of in-game help system, although Brimley isn't particularly creative, so it's pretty much just obvious things that he points out. You can open scrolls and books that you uncover to find out more about the lore of the tower that you found yourself in, and take time to do so. The only real pressure here that in terms of the game putting you under is time. You light a torch at the beginning, and from that point forward you must rely on other torches you uncover for light, which burns down over time. If you run out, then you simply die. Each one can be used to light the next torch or to light certain objects in the environment on fire. The latter part is rather limited but critical for advancement. You can also save the game while you have a lit torch with at least 25% of its lifespan left, so that's another inducement to keep one lit. Graphically, Templum de Malum uses a hand-drawn art style that represents each room in a manner similar to the old MacVenture games, as I keep saying over and over again, but without the pixelated graphics of that era. Overall, the art style is rather nice, not too realistic, but consistent throughout the game, and it gives it a sort of semi-retro feel without actually trying to duplicate it. The UI is clunky, but purposefully so, as it is trying to duplicate the old style. This is mitigated by the ability to hotkey certain commands, so even though the UI is clunky, you really don't have to go into it unless you absolutely have to. The game's musical soundtrack is actually really good and fitting, and is one of the higher points of the game. There is a fair amount of lore that you can uncover while exploring the tower as well, involving secret societies and cults that once built the tower in ancient times, as well as its more recent inhabitants. I honestly don't have much to compare this game to, besides, as I've mentioned over and over again, the old MacVenture titles, and I want to say that the puzzles in many cases feel a little bit more straightforward than I recall those being. I don't necessarily know if it's because I'm older and wiser, or they really are streamlined. That's not necessarily a bad thing, as there are quite a few of them, and all the puzzles in the game feel pretty unique. The environments are fairly varied as well. If I had to describe the overall gameplay itself as simply as possible, I'd say that it feels like a somewhat more expansive yet less deadly Shadowgate. Okay, so it's not an RPG, but what do I think of it? Honestly, I liked it. Simple as I thought the puzzles were for the while that I played, that was actually rather helpful, since some of the old point-and-click puzzles could be obtuse to the point of game stopping, and while a couple in Templum de Malum were challenging, none really ground the game to an absolute halt for me. The addition of the NPC that you can ask for help for is a welcome addition to the formula. I only used him a couple times, but I do kind of miss that it was maybe a little less deadly than those old school games, but mostly because the myriad of deaths available in the Inspiration series were kind of amusing. Now, the death scenes in this game are still amusing, it's just a touch harder to accidentally trigger them if you're putting any effort to it. I remember in some of those older games you could die every 5 seconds if you really weren't paying attention. Templum de Malum still gives you that taste of a challenge in puzzle solving, while offering a little bit of an easier time for more casual people or people who just haven't played adventure games in a long time. If you can find it on sale, I definitely recommend picking it up if you have any interest at all in point-and-click adventure games, or if you just want a nice atmospheric thing that you can casually exercise your puzzle-solving skills without a lot of pressure. Even when it's not on sale, the price is modest for the value involved, so I still highly recommend it. I myself am mostly using it to brush up on my puzzle-solving and puzzle-creating skills, since that is one of my weaker points when I'm designing tabletop role-playing games. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday, Templum de Malum. As always, I'll leave a link to where you can pick it up below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you are still watching, I would like to take the opportunity to thank my supporters, the top tiers of which are listed on the screen, without whose support I would not have been able to offer the variety of content that I have on this channel throughout the years. If you're feeling particularly generous and would like to join them, you can support the channel. There are a variety of options to do so. I have a Patreon, a Subscribestar, as well as channel memberships enabled. If you are not in a position to contribute, simply leaving a like, a comment, or sharing my videos are all wonderful ways to help the channel grow without spending a dime, and are all greatly appreciated.